The story is set during World War II. A man named Benjamin, fleeing from soldiers, arrives at a house seeking refuge. The homeowner, seeing the soldiers in pursuit, decides to help Benjamin. To save his life, the kind man hides Benjamin inside his house. When the soldiers arrive and ask if anyone is hiding there, the family denies it, claiming no one has come to their home. The soldiers, however, remain suspicious and decide to search the house. Despite their efforts, they find no one. After the soldiers leave, Benjamin emerges from his hiding place under a sofa and reveals to the family that he is actually a scientist. He explains that he once worked for the Japanese military and discovered their plans for a devastating weapon intended for use in the war. Wanting to expose the Japanese army's sinister plans to the world, he fled, which led the soldiers to hunt him down. Throughout this conversation, Benjamin clutches a book, though he does not discuss its contents. Benjamin asks the family if he can stay with them for a few more days, and they agree. After a few days, the soldiers return to search the house again. Seeing the soldiers approaching, the homeowner tells his wife to hide Benjamin, who is then concealed in their daughter's room. The general begins his interrogation, warning the family that he is as effective as a lie detector and can detect lies through human behavior. It is clear the colonel is trying to intimidate them, and the family is already terrified. The interrogation tactics change as the colonel starts playing cards with the daughter. While explaining the game rules, he tells her that people often make mistakes in the game, hinting that he knows they are lying, but none of the family members confess. Just as the colonel is about to leave, he hears a noise from the roof. Benjamin, accidentally hitting a showpiece with his foot, manages to catch it before it falls, but the noise alerts the colonel to his presence. Discovering Benjamin's hiding spot, the colonel shoots him dead with one bullet. The family's lie is exposed by Benjamin's death, and in a fit of rage, the colonel kills both the husband and wife, leaving the family's fate sealed by their attempt to protect Benjamin. Before the colonel kills his daughter, she manages to run away. However, the colonel shoots at her from a distance, and though she's injured, she doesn't give up. Seeking refuge, she finds a toy shop, where the elderly toymaker agrees to help her. This girl has Benjamin's book, which he entrusted to her before the soldiers arrived, warning her that it should never fall into Japanese hands. She repeats this warning to the toymaker before she dies. The toymaker is saddened by the girl's death. That night, he hears an announcement from the soldiers outside, declaring that anyone who helped the girl would face severe punishment. Enraged, the toymaker buries the girl's body in a secluded place under the cover of darkness. The following morning, we see the toymaker back at his shop, where he talks to his dolls, which he crafted himself and considered his children. However, due to the war, no one was buying his dolls. A girl named Abigail, who worked at his shop, urged him to leave because he hadn't paid her for a long time. The toymaker, who regarded Abigail as a daughter, persuades her to stay. That night, the toymaker opens Benjamin's book, which he had received from the girl. Instead of bomb-making instructions, he finds magical spells written inside. Meanwhile, the colonel receives a report that the girl is still missing. Enraged, he intensifies the search and orders his men to find her at all costs. The toymaker discovers a spell in the book that can bring inanimate objects to life. He uses this spell on a doll named Rupert, and to his amazement, Rupert comes to life. The toymaker is overjoyed and tells Abigail about his discovery the next morning. She dismisses his story as a dream. Frustrated by the lack of progress, the colonel announces a reward of $20,000 for information about the girl, a significant amount of money at the time. Later, while Abigail is reading a book, the doll named Rupert, now alive, appears in front of her. Startled, Abigail prepares to defend herself with a pencil. Abigail shouted at him, and finally, the toymaker came to save her. During this time, the doll named Rupert was quietly listening to everything the toymaker said. Abigail became convinced that the toymaker had told her all the stories about reviving the doll. The toymaker continued the story, explaining to Abigail that he got the book from an injured girl who had sought refuge in his shop from Japanese soldiers. He hadn't yet told Abigail that the injured girl had died and that he had buried her. After the story, Abigail questioned why Robert attacked her. The toymaker suggested that it might have been influenced by his emotions. He explained that because she talked about quitting her job, he became angry, which might have triggered the doll's attack. Whatever the reason, Abigail was very frightened by these events. Knowing that Robert was dangerous, she confirmed her decision to quit the job. Though sad to leave, meanwhile, the colonel discovered that a girl named Abigail was willing to provide information about the girl he and the Japanese soldiers were searching for. He immediately summoned her. Abigail recounted the story the toymaker had told her about an injured girl who had come to his shop and given him a book. After sharing this, the colonel, instead of rewarding her, took her life. The scene then shifts to the toymaker's house, where Japanese soldiers had arrived. They knocked the toymaker unconscious. One soldier decided to take him to headquarters, instructing another to burn the shop. As the soldier began to pour fuel, Robert struck him on the head, rendering him unconscious. Robert then decided to head to the headquarters with the other two dolls to rescue the toymaker. At headquarters, the colonel was torturing the toymaker, demanding information about the girl. The toymaker remained silent until the colonel threatened to break his leg with a hammer. The toymaker then revealed that an injured girl had come to his shop with a book, which she gave him before she died. The colonel pressed for more details and clarified that the book did not contain a formula for making a bomb. Instead, it was written by a man named Yusuf and contained thousands of magical spells, capable of granting eternal life and reviving the dead. The toymaker already knew this and feared that the colonel would kill him if he revealed that he had used the spells to revive 3 dolls. Meanwhile, the toymaker's 3 dolls had reached the headquarters, and soldiers were beginning to notice them. When a soldier went to check, a doll swiftly cut his throat. The second doll then proceeded to the colonel's room where the major was present. The major, terrified at the sight of the doll, attacked it with his gun multiple times, but the doll remained unscathed. Ultimately, the doll cut the major's throat, killing him. The 3 dolls then headed to the interrogation room to rescue the toymaker. The colonel had already drawn his gun, prepared to kill the toymaker. Before he could, Robert attacked his legs from behind. The sight of the 3 living dolls terrified the colonel. The dolls collectively began stabbing the colonel, and the toymaker watched, feeling a twisted sense of pride that his creations had come to his rescue like children. Realizing he wouldn't survive, the injured colonel begged Robert to end his suffering. Robert complied, picking up the gun and shooting the colonel, thus punishing him for his misdeeds. Turning their attention to the toymaker, the dolls found him in dire condition, on the brink of death. With his last breaths, the toymaker urged his dolls to stay together forever, and then he died. The dolls mourned his death, crying, until Isabel had an idea. She opened the magic book and read the spells to revive the dead, bringing the toymaker back to life. As he revived, the toymaker laughed strangely, and the 3 dolls rejoiced. In the final scene, the toymaker is seen carrying the 3 dolls in a suitcase, a sinister smile on his face suggesting malicious intentions. The story concludes with this ominous note.